Hey, just before we dive right into it, I just want to put out there that the Mega Dimension DLC for Pokemon Legends ZA is here. Now, unlike the release of the base game, I actually went and took a little peek at the new Mega Pokemon coming out. So I wasn't exactly a good boy there. I went and spoiled it for myself, and to be completely honest, I am very excited about a lot of these new Pokemon that are coming out. However, I am not going to be talking about them this week. I'm going to give it about a week or so just for a little bit of a cool down. I got two other videos aside from this one to go live, and I actually haven't played the DLC yet, despite it being almost 10 after 2 in the afternoon. So, yeah. We're going to talk about Mega Scrafty today. This is a Pokemon that I think has a fascinating stat distribution. As far as the design goes, I don't really know how to address it. I think it kind of looks cool with the coat, but that color scheme, to put it nicely, makes it look like a reverse creamsicle. And I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think of it down in the comments below. And also, have you seen Shiny Mega Scrafty? It is absolutely sublime, and I'm just gonna pull it up on Cerebi right now because I don't own a shiny Scrafty yet. But yeah, take a look at that purple and that orange. It really pops. And honestly, with this Pokemon, I know it's supposed to be like baggy street clothes, but I look at this thing and I see like a boxer's robe, which I mean, fighting lizard, so yeah, that makes sense. But Scrafty is also one of the creepiest Pokemon out there because it makes clothes out of its own skin, which, I mean, that's been a thing since it debuted in Generation 5. But yeah, honestly, probably should have handled this Pokemon around Halloween because the creepy factor is definitely there and way creepier than it should be leading up to Christmas, which is oh Lord, it is Christmas is almost here, which is wild. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to talk about Mega Scrafty and its stats for when it goes live in Pokemon Champions. I think as far as a Mega Pokemon goes, I think this is going to be a really cool Pokemon. We got a lot more firepower on this thing. We've got some heightened bulk, and we even got a tiny little speed boost, which is just enough for Mega Scrafty to get creative. But before we dive right into it, we're going to have a quick word from me in a different shirt talking about today's partner. So take it away, me. You wouldn't reach into a hot oven barehanded, right? Nor would you go barreling down the highway without a seatbelt, or even switching in a barrel into an unprotected thunder. So why are you surfing the web without using a VPN, specifically NordVPN for that matter, today's partner? Look, phishing scams have become a lot more prevalent in recent history, and people are looking to breach your online security and make off with your data for a profit, which certainly ain't convenient for you, and while it might be convenient for them, it isn't exactly the best way to make a profit. So, protect yourself with NordVPN. By connecting to their servers, you naturally encrypt your ISP, automatically strengthening your online security. And with Nord's built-in ad blocker, you don't have to worry about those pesky pop-up ads that could be loaded with malware. And that's just the bare minimum of what Nord has to offer. With their Threat Protection Pro, Nord flags websites that are a little bit sus and gives you the option to turn away from that dark digital alleyway before you make a terrible mistake. And on top of that, they also have the Dark Web Monitor, where they scour the internet for those in real life hideouts of those Team Rocket members looking to profit off of your data. And if Nord does happen to find anything on the Dark Web, it will alert you so that you can take appropriate action. Now, that sounds pretty convenient if you ask me. And if you're thinking the same thing as I am, which is not pizza, by the way, good news. I have a discount code. Use code SHUCKO over at NordVPN to get a 70% discount on a 2-year plan. And what does that also entail? Well, it allows you to protect up to 10 different devices at once, so you don't have to choose between protecting your phone or your laptop. Protect them both while having some room to spare. And on the more profound fundamental level, you also don't have to worry about choosing between which family members are going to be protected online and which ones aren't. You can protect them all, unless there's about 40 of you. That unfortunately, I don't really know what to tell you at that point. But getting back on track, Nord also has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you try them out and you don't like it, you can automatically just submit for a refund there within 30 days of purchase, which honestly, that sounds pretty good if you ask me. So use NordVPN to protect yourself and use my link, Shucko, over at NordVPN for that sweet 70% discount on a 2-year plan. So, what are you waiting for? Once the video is done, head over to nordvpn.com/shucko and check out their options. Thank you to Nord for partnering with me for today's video, and now let's get back to the Pokemon. Alright, so let's dive right into it. As far as candidates for Mega Evolution goes, Scrafty is a fascinating choice, and some people might think it's a bit of a waste of a Mega slot due to its lower HP, and the fact that base Scrafty is a moderately decent support mon. However, Scrafty has kind of faced a little bit of competition in recent years, and that competition obviously comes from Incineroar, because some things that Scrafty has in common with Incineroar is the fact that it is an Intimidate Pokemon with access to Fake Out, and to an extent, Scrafty also has that in common with Hitmontop. And back in Generation 5, when Scrafty first debuted, there was no such thing as the Fairy typing nor Incineroar, so Scrafty and Hitmontop were relatively good tools to have on your team for a supportive end, since both of them have that Fake Out, they have the Intimidate, physical attackers are everywhere, and another thing too is there was no such thing as the Clear Amulet, so Intimidate was a lot more prevalent then than it is now today, whereas you see a lot more Defiant Pokemon, which coincidentally Defiant came around, I think it was in the 5th generation, might have been the 4th. I'm trying to remember, I'm kind of blanking on this, which not really great for me, but anyways, competitive and Defiant as abilities, the Clear Amulet, they make Intimidate a little bit harder to play around because you do face a problem, and in Generation 5, there was a lot less of that going around, which was relatively nice. You had access to Hitmontop and Scrafty here, and with Scrafty's Dark Fighting dual typing, it kind of had a little bit of a nice edge there compared to Hitmontop. And the reason why is because Scrafty, although it does gain a fighting type weakness now, as a fighting type Pokemon, it gains an outright immunity to psychic type attacks, and Latios was a pretty big threat back in the days of Generation 5, if I understand correctly. So you have that nice resistance to, or rather, that nice immunity to psychic type attacks. You have a nice 4 times dark type weakness, which is great because Bisharp was one of said Defiant Pokemon in Generation 5, so you didn't really have to worry about taking a dark type attack from that thing. You could just turn around and hit it with a fighting type attack if you really wanted to, or, you know, you could have hit it with a Fake Out with Scrafty and then had Scrafty's partner hit it with a super effective move as well. But there was also no fairies as well, so that dark fighting dual typing was relatively nice there because you were really weak to just flying and fighting for the most part as far as Scrafty goes. So you did have that nice little niche right there, and plus you do have that 4 times dark typing resistance, which I did mention there too. But then flash forward to Generation 6, and now Scrafty and Hitmontop both now have to face the threat of fairy type attacks. And in Scrafty's case, well, it had a nice unpleasant 4 times weakness now come up, so Scrafty didn't really see as much play going onward from Generation 6. There was definitely some people that were definitely trying it out, myself included, because Generation 6 is when I started playing online in general. But yeah, fairy type attacks definitely didn't do Scrafty any favors. And then Generation 7 rolled around, we got Incineroar, and then eventually Incineroar got access to Intimidate as its hidden ability. And then Generation 8 rolled around, Incineroar was pretty much everywhere, and Scrafty was nowhere to be seen. You saw the odd Hitmontop show up here and there, but even Hitmontop started falling to the wayside, which is to say, because Scrafty's kind of fallen behind, now it makes sense. Let's get that Mega Evolution there. Let's get a new stat distribution. And now maybe let's see if Scrafty can handle a brand new playstyle as a Mega Pokemon. Now, It does have a little bit of a problem with its base 65 HP. That is kind of a little bit lower in today's power scaling, but honestly, its defenses in base form are still not bad with screen support, and now with the Mega Evolution, we jump up to 135 into both of its defenses. Its attack jumps up from 90 to 135, and its speed does go up a little bit from base 58 to base 68. And as I said in the intro of the video, Scrafty, it's not a big boost to its speed, but it is a nice tiny little boost that can allow it to get creative. And another unique thing too that Scrafty did get access to in Legends ZA is it gained access to the move Parting Shot. So it does have a nice pivoting option as well. So whether you're playing as base Scrafty or Mega Scrafty, you do have the ability to have a moderately slow but safe pivoting option right there for Parting Shot. Now, I also have this set to the Scarlet and Violet ladder, so Parting Shot's going to show up as an illegal moveset. But here, if we do this right quick, we go into ZAOU. There you go. Now it's not showing up as illegal. So in ZA, it gained access to Parting Shot, so it can have a nice, safe pivoting option for a faster partner Pokemon in the back row. So whether you're using this on the base form as a support mon, or whether you're using this on the Mega as a backup means of being able to pivot out in case you might not necessarily want to just hard switch, like you do have that to keep in mind. And yeah, I think Parting Shot is a really good addition to having on Mega Scrafty. And let's go back to the subject of Mega Scrafty stats. I mentioned the speed stat twice now being a nice little creative thing. And the reason for that is because of where Scrafty sits as far as its speed tier goes. With an extra point of speed, so basically all you need is 4 EVs. If you get Tailwind up, Mega Scrafty is now going to speed tie base 110 Pokemon. That's pretty big. Why? Because Mega Metagross just so happens to be a base 110 speed Pokemon, which is going to be a very, very nice thing since Scrafty also just received a nice little boost to its attack stat. It went from 90 to 130. So now a strong dark type option, whether it be Throat Chop or Knockoff, Mega Metagross is not going to enjoy that at all. Especially since Mega Metagross is a Pokemon that I think is going to be really scary in Champions. So I think having access to Scrafty being able to potentially speed tie that with just very minimal investment is going to be great, because then you could work on investing into your bulk, you can commit to your HP, you can commit to your defenses, you can commit to your attack stat, and honestly, even if you just go up the 2 points right here to 90, well, now you're going to outspeed Mega Metagross, which is going to be relatively nice, because Mega Metagross, with the jolly nature and max investment, is going to hit 178 speed. Well, with Scrafty at 90 speed in Tailwind, you're now going to hit 180. So if your opponent doesn't have Tailwind, or if you manage to knock out their Tailwind setter and then stall out their Tailwind and then get up your own Tailwind, well, now you're in a nice little position. And the other thing too is Scrafty also gets access to some really nice boosting moves of its own that I think are relatively nice, because you can have access to Dragon Dance. So basically, you can raise your speed one stage as well as raise up your attack. So you can get an extra speed boost right there. You might not necessarily have to rely on Tailwind, or you could use this to really help Scrafty offset the Tailwind mirror. So you could use Dragon Dance to either offset the Tailwind mirror, or you could, hypothetically, have Dragon Dance and then maybe say something like Icy Wind working in tandem. Maybe Scrafty's partner goes for an Icy Wind, an Electro Web, and then Scrafty goes for a Dragon Dance, and now you might have some interesting speed numbers to run into. And Another couple of boosting moves that Scrafty gets that are pretty notable. It gets access to bulk up, so you can raise your attack and defense. You can use Sword Stance to go up to +2 attack each time you use it. You get access to Iron Defense, so you can boost up your defense 2 stages. And you get Amnesia, so you can even boost up the special defense if you really want to. So that's relatively nice to choose from. You can run multiple boosting moves on this thing. If you really wanted to, you could pick one and then go for some damaging moves. Like, Mega Scrafty does have plenty of options to boost up its stats, and with screen support helping out and the influx of Pokemon with recovery moves over the years, you could probably make a case for keeping Scrafty around and healing it up, and then you might not necessarily have to worry about that base 65 HP. So, like, you might be okay there with either screen support and a healing mon next to this thing. But another thing that I want to mention is the second point about speed with Mega Scrafty here. And that's the fact that this gets the move Upper Hand. Upper Hand is a +3 priority move. It's a fighting type attack that will only work when your opponent is using priority. And a lot of common priority moves that you see tend to be Extreme Speed, which is a +2 priority. You tend to see the moves such as Sucker Punch and Grassy Glide, which are both a +1 priority. So being able to shut those down is relatively nice as far as Scrafty goes. And Fake Out is another huge priority move that you see, and it, like Upper Hand, is a +3. And why am I mentioning Fake Out and Upper Hand? Well, it's because there's a very prominent Fake Out mon that loves to have that Fake Out, but when you have the same speed bracket for your priority, the faster speed stat wins. And what do you know? Mega Scrafty is now faster than Incineroar, meaning Upper Hand will stop Incineroar's Fake Out, and even if you do take a drop from Intimidate into your attack stat, this is a super effective attack coming off of a base 130 attack stat. Incineroar is not going to love that. Now, it's not going to be the same result as, say, Okidogi, where Okidogi gets a +1 when it gets intimidated, but Mega Scrafty can probably do something while still giving Incineroar that V8 Palm Strike and making it not be able to move. So that's a relatively nice tool that Mega Scrafty has in its kit. And plus, Parting Shot is a sound-based move, so I mean, you can always just throat chop that Incineroar with the Mega Scrafty. Although it won't be super effective, being able to deny that thing the ability to pivot, that is a relatively nice thing to keep in your back mind. So, like, you could have access to that and just have some nice things going with Mega Scrafty right there. And let's talk some EVs. Right now, without any investment, you're sitting at 140 HP with max IVs. If you max out your investment, you cap out at 172. It's not the biggest amount, but if you have grassy terrain up on the field because of a Rillaboom, or maybe even your opponent's Rillaboom up on the field, you're getting a little bit of passive recovery right there. That's not too bad. Heal Pulse exists, Life Dew exists. Comfey in general exists with Triage and Floral Healing, so that could be relatively nice for keeping Scrafty around. And just for simplicity's sake, for some numbers, if you use 36 EVs, you can get an extra 5 points, so you can round that 155 special defense and physical defense up to 160 if you really wanted to, and you could just commit the rest of your EVs into your attack and your defense if you really wanted to. The other thing too is Showdown's going to yell at me because I don't have a beneficial nature on here, so maybe even if we did something like this, like we get Scrafty up to 191 attack with an adamant nature and 188 EVs, that's a pretty respectable number. If you're using Dragon Dance, Sword Stance, or Bulk Up, you're getting a pretty big chunk of base stat points or bonus stat points from the stat increases of those stages. So that's relatively nice. Even 158 from a defense boost isn't too shabby at the end of the day. Let's pull up a calculator right quick here. 158, if you're getting a +1 defense boost. You're getting that 50% right there. You're going up to 237 with a bulk up. So like Mega Scrafty wouldn't necessarily hate a bulk up with only 20 points of EVs into your defense to give you that 158. So that's not too shabby at the end of the day. If you had the iron defense, well, now you're going to go up by 2 stages. So once you hit +2, you're doubling your stat. So you're hitting 316. That's relatively nice. Now, unfortunately, I don't think Scrafty gets body press, but you know what? That's okay. That actually is okay, because like you have some pretty good tools in upper hand as well as low kick, which we haven't really touched on. But low kick scales in power with the weight of the target, so like that could be really nice for hitting something like say a Tyranitar for massive damage, which Tyranitar would also be 4 times weak to low kick. So unless you're playing a Tyranitar, Tyranitar's not loving that low kick. There's certainly that. Now, a really simple idea that I was thinking you could do with Mega Scrafty is you could kind of try to play like a bulkier set and then run Drain Punch and Knock Off as your damaging moves. Now, both of these moves on their own, not really the strongest hitting, but the idea here is you could do a double setup move. You could do bulk up so that you can get a +1 attack and a +1 defense. Alternatively, you could run Swords Dance, and then that way too, maybe you just commit to more defensive EVs. You can have Amnesia to raise your special defense up 2 stages each time you use it. And then you can kind of have some fun there. You have some sustainability with Drain Punch, healing back 50% of the damage you do. So if you get your attack stat boosted up pretty quickly, well, now Drain Punch is going to be doing a lot. Knockoff is going to be hitting the ghost types that would otherwise be immune to fighting type attacks, which is relatively nice. But one problem here is fairy types, they do resist both dark and fighting type coverage. So maybe you don't run bulk up. Maybe you keep the Amnesia. Maybe you run a poison move just so that you can have some super effective coverage into most fairy type Pokemon. Maybe you have the Drain Punch, and then that way too, maybe you could have a helping hand bond next to Scrafty. Maybe it's a coaching bond, which honestly, the fact that coaching exists is relatively nice for Mega Scrafty, since it's giving your partner Pokemon a +1 into the attack and defense instead. So Scrafty would still benefit from getting a defense boost. It would benefit from getting an attack boost from coaching. And then it could maybe afford to run either a 3rd damaging move or Protect. And the nice thing about Protect is it doesn't block out coaching. So you could have Protect on Scrafty potentially. You can get that coaching boost, and you can kind of just go from there. And you can kind of just play around with your EVs. I have this kind of like more especially defensive with the 170 after having 116 EVs, but maybe instead of that, maybe because you have the Amnesia, maybe you just go back down to 156, maybe invest more into your defense so that you have that 170. If you have a coaching mon next to you there, you're getting a pretty decent boost right out of the gate. So I think that could be relatively fun, and it could be nice to see having that extra boost to your defense from coaching. And then that way too, you can free up a move slot, like I said, so you don't necessarily have to run bulk up. Alternatively, you can run both bulk up and coaching, just so you can just be like, I feel like Scrafty needs to boost itself this turn, or maybe Scrafty's partner needs to boost itself. Like, you could have that. Either way, at +1, you're going to go up to 255 into the defense stats, so that's relatively nice at the end of the day. So I think that could be a really fun thing for Mega Scrafty. But maybe what you decide to do is maybe you want to decide you want to go into the more offensive route, whether you're playing towards Swords Dance or Dragon Dance. And we got some interesting numbers here for as far as the speed goes. So right now on the screen, I have 196 EVs into the speed stat with a Jolly Nature to hit 124. This will guarantee that you will always outspeed maximum speed Incineroar. And this is maximum speed beneficial nature Incineroar, because that caps out at 123. Now, not a lot of people run that, but if you're ever going into a metagame where Incineroar does need to run speed, there's your magic number right there. You have that 124, and then you can start outspeeding that and make sure that you are kind of min-maxing it, because you're outspeeding it by exactly 1 point. Maybe, though, you don't care about maximum speed Incineroar, but you are worried about maximum speed neutral nature Incineroar. Well, if you switch to an adamant nature right there and leave the 196, you hit 113. Incineroar caps out at 112. So you still have that one extra point right there. So that could be relatively nice. Maybe, though, you want to like scale it to, say, Pelipper, which Pelipper is a base 65 Speedmon. So Pelipper would max out at 117. Maybe what you want to do instead is you want to try to get that 117. So maybe we'll lower the attack stat. 236 would give you 118. So you could hypothetically outspeed Pelipper, and Scrafty does get access to some super effective coverage against Pelipper too. So if we just put in the rock filter right here, you get access to Stone Edge, Rock Slide, and Head Smash. Head Smash is absolutely disgusting with that base power being so high, but you do take a lot of recoil, whereas Rock Slide, if you don't have to worry about playing the wide guard mind games, you could hit it with Rock Slide instead, or you have Stone Edge, which, I mean, Gravity's a thing too. Like, Gravity support could let you boost up your accuracy on the Stone Edge, and you can just kind of just go for that. And plus, you know, it's got a boosted crit ratio, so you could have that. Now, alternatively too, if you're not really worried about damage, and you're just worried about a little bit of speed control, you could opt for Rock Tomb as well, which does have that base 60 power, but it's 95 accuracy, which is more accurate than Rock Slide and Stone Edge and Head Smash. So hypothetically, you could do Rock Tomb instead, but I think Stone Edge could be a relatively nice thing. Now, let's talk about the really nice thing about Scrafty. It's got really high base power fighting type attacks in both close combat and high jump kick. High jump kick, I'm pretty sure it's had since debut in Generation 5. Close combat, I think that's a relatively newer addition, but close combat is a great option because you don't have to worry about the recoil associated with high jump kick. Close combat, you can do some massive damage, especially if you get that Sword Stance up or even Dragon Dance. And if you have Dragon Dance and Tailwind working together, like you could have some really nice things working in your favor as far as that goes. Also, I should probably mention this because I kind of got away from it. We did the max neutral nature for Pelipper, but Scrafty's base 68 speed, Pelipper's 65, so you can still outspeed a maximum speed boosting Pelipper as well. So like you can hypothetically do that, but I figured I'd just shoehorn that in there. Scrafty, it does get a lot of great power off of close combat and high jump kick. And if you're not too worried about dropping your defenses, especially if you have some good redirection or maybe even haze support, like you could run the close combat, take that drop to your defenses, and then just haze away the stat changes on the entire field because haze doesn't have to worry about being redirected. So you could do that, or you could just use a redirection mon that knows either Follow Me or Rage Powder, and Scrafty can opt for a second close combat, do some big damage, and just kind of go from there. But let's just take a quick look at something too, because I'm kind of curious. Does Scrafty get access to Sucker Punch? This is one of those things that I'm kind of curious about. No, unfortunately, Scrafty does not get Sucker Punch. Otherwise, I think Scrafty could have been really funny with that. But I mean, it still has some really good options in dark type coverage with Knockoff and Throat Chop. So like, just bringing up some things that Scrafty gets. Like, it does get that Throat Chop. It gets Crunch too, which honestly, Throat Chop is just kind of probably the better option, so that you can stop the likes of Hyper Voice coming off of any Pokemon with an ability that changes the typing of it. It's also nice to stop the Parting Shot. Crunch has that nice bonus 20% chance to drop the defense, but really, you should be running that Throat Chop or Knockoff. I mean, Knockoff gets bonus damage when it removes an item. So I mean, you get that 50% boost bonus damage when you do remove the item, and plus, Mega Scrafty with a Sword Stance boost, like that's going to be doing a lot of damage with the Knockoff at the end of the day. Like, let's just run this through the calculator as well. 65 times 50%, so 1.5, it goes up to 97.5, which I mean, Pokemon does drop the number, but I mean, that's before factoring in stab as well. So like if you got a +2, like that bonus damage off knockoff is initially higher than throat chop at crunch. So like you do have that. So if you're removing the item and you're getting that bonus damage off knockoff, like you are getting a slightly higher attack. Once the item's gone, like you're kind of limited to that 65. But I mean, the Swords Dance or Dragon Dance or even Bulk Up, like they would certainly help it at the end of the day. So I think that could be a relatively nice thing. And one last thing that I wanted to touch on before we end off the video is the fact that base Scrafty is a really good support option as well. So maybe if you're playing closed team sheet or just on the ladder, maybe you might want to bluff that you have 2 Mega Pokemon on your team. Maybe you want to run that Mega Metagross yourself, and maybe you want to play a few mind games at Team Preview with your opponent, and maybe you have the Scrafty right here. As I mentioned too with ZA, like it gained access to Parting Shot too, so like just some food for thought. Scrafty gets access to Fake Out, so like you could potentially shut down an opposing Pokemon on your opponent's team, so long as there's no Psychic Terrain or Armor Tail, Dazzling, any ability that cancels that out. So you could create an opening for your partner Pokemon. You have Foul Play, which is great on base Scrafty because it uses the opponent's attack stat instead of your own. So you don't have to worry about that middling 90 attack. So you can have that Foul Play. You have Helping Hand, which is a +5 priority move, so you don't even have to worry about like upper hand stopping it. You can give your partner Pokemon a 50% boost right there and let them do some big damage, which could be great coming off of Metagross. And the reason too why I mentioned that Helping Hand is a +5 priority outside of upper hand being a +3, Bullet Punch is a +1. If you wanted your Mega Metagross to do some massive damage with a Bullet Punch to pick off a weakened Pokemon, or maybe just make that Hail Mary play and just try to pick up enough of a knockout right there, you can have that Bullet Punch just go off really hard. Like, I mean, Metagross with that 145 attack and Tough Claws, like Bullet Punch is going to hurt at the end of the day to begin with, but having Scrafty boosted up with Helping Hand, that could be relatively nice. So your Bullet Punch has that boosted priority, and now you're getting a 50% boost from the Helping Hand, and Metagross has Stab on it, so like that could be relatively nice, even if it's not necessarily Mega Metagross and it's Mega Scizor. Like, Mega Scizor would also benefit from having a Bullet Punch get a Helping Hand boost, whereas it's an even higher attack at 150. You have that Bullet Punch, you have Technician. Like, yeah, you could do that. Like, Mega Scizor would definitely love that Helping Hand. And also, as I mentioned earlier too, you have Upper Hand, or if you need to safely pivot out Scrafty into another Pokemon, or rather safely pivot in the partner Pokemon, because Scrafty's probably taken a hit. You have Parting Shot as well, thanks to ZA. So like maybe you decide Scizor is the call. Maybe your opponent has a really gross fairy type Pokemon on the field. Maybe you have some Follow Me, but maybe they also have a potential fairy Pokemon that might know a fire type attack. So maybe you think they might call the Heart Switch and go for a fire attack into your Scizor. Well, you have that Parting Shot. If Scrafty takes that fire type attack and Scizor switches in safely, and then Scizor gets off the Bullet Punch, like, that could be great. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be Mega Scizor. It could be regular Scizor. Like, fun thoughts that you can have right there. But yeah, that's overall, that's kind of the majority of what I wanted to talk about. And I mean, this whole section of the recording is 30 minutes. So yeah, we definitely talked about Mega Scrafty way longer than I wanted to, but hey, it's a fun Pokemon. It's got some great stats, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on it, whether it be the stats or the design in general. So be sure to let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. And also thank you once again to NordVPN for partnering with me for today's video. Don't forget, use my code SHUCKO to snag yourself a wicked discount off of a 2-year plan, and plus get some bonus months in there as well. And plus, not only are you strengthening your own cybersecurity by partnering with NordVPN, you're also helping support my channel as well, which, hey, I certainly appreciate that. By all means, I definitely do. So anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. And like I said at the beginning of the video too, I'm going to give it a week or so, and then we're going to start talking about some of the brand new Pokemon that came with the DLC as far as the brand new Mega Pokemon go. I mean, so anyways, see you later.